Once upon a time, in a small strip of land known as Gaza, a heart-wrenching story unfolded. 2 weeks into the Israel-Palestine war, the situation had spiraled into a living nightmare. The people of Gaza found themselves trapped in the midst of unimaginable chaos and despair. On the 9th of October, Israel imposed a total blockade on Gaza. Food, medicine, water, and even electricity became a distant memory. The continuous bombardment transformed Gaza into a place that could only be described as hell on earth. The scenes that emerged from this beleaguered land were nothing short of shocking. Entire neighborhoods crumbled to rubble, buildings reduced to mere shadows of their former selves. These were the Gazan structures targeted by Israel, leaving no stone unturned in its path of destruction. More than 2,800 Palestinian civilians had tragically lost their lives, with thousands still trapped amidst the debris. The survivors sought refuge in hospitals and schools, but by the 16th of October, even these sanctuaries were running out of water. The United Nations agency UNRWA issued a grim statement, referring to the situation as an unprecedented human catastrophe. Imagine for a moment that you were in Gaza during these dark times. No electricity, no water, no internet, and a scarcity of food. It was a harrowing reality for the people of Gaza, who could hardly fathom how their lives had taken such a tragic turn. Then, one day, as the sound of bombardments echoed all around, a surreal sight greeted the residents. Pamphlets rained down from the sky bearing a stark warning from Israel. The message was clear: all those in the north of the Gaza Strip should evacuate immediately and seek shelter in the south if they wanted to survive. In the north, roughly 1.1 million people resided. The Israeli Defense Forces (IDF) urged everyone to flee to the south. The United Nations shelters in the north were no longer safe, and every corner of Gaza became a potential target. Pregnant women, children, and the elderly were unable to escape the looming danger. The World Health Organization condemned Israel's orders, as 20 hospitals in northern Gaza were struggling to evacuate over 2,000 patients. But despite the chaos and uncertainty, around 600,000 Gazans made their way south, while 500,000 others remained behind. Yet, the question remained, would those who fled to the south truly find safety from the bombings? Reports of airstrikes in southern Gaza proved that even there, no place was truly secure. Khan Yunis, a city in the south, endured multiple airstrikes, and even the Rafah crossing point near the border with Egypt wasn't spared. The Rafah border crossing was the only escape route for the people of Gaza. It was their lifeline to safety, their chance to flee the destruction. But Egypt was not ready to open its borders as it, along with other Arab countries, considered it unacceptable for Palestinian refugees to enter their territories. Amidst the chaos, the threat of further escalation of the war loomed large. Clashes were reported in Israel and Lebanon, with Hezbollah operating in the north of Israel. As the people of Gaza struggled to survive, uncertainty and danger were their constant companions. In this gripping tale of tragedy and resilience, the world watched with bated breath, hoping for a resolution to the conflict that had plunged Gaza into darkness. 6-46. Amid the tumultuous backdrop of the Israel-Palestine conflict, a series of events unfolded that left the world in shock. This story not only delves into the heart of this intense struggle, but also explores the intricacies of international relations and the people caught in the crossfire. As the Israel-Palestine war raged on, Gaza found itself on the brink of disaster. A total blockade had been imposed, cutting off the essentials of life: food, medicine, water, and electricity. The relentless bombardment had turned the region into a living nightmare. Entire neighborhoods lay in ruins, and the casualty count was staggering, with over 2,800 Palestinian civilians perishing in the chaos. In a place as densely populated as Gaza, the suffering was unimaginable, especially for the half of its population that consisted of children. Even before the war, living conditions had been abysmal. with constant surveillance and restrictions imposed by Israel. Some had even referred to Gaza as an open-air prison. In a grim twist of fate, residents began receiving warnings from Israel, urging them to evacuate their homes in the north and seek refuge in the south to escape the relentless bombardments. But for many, this was an impossible task, as pregnant women, children, and the elderly found themselves trapped amidst the turmoil. The situation extended beyond Gaza's borders, with clashes erupting between Israel and Lebanon, where Hezbollah had a strong presence. The world watched in apprehension as this volatile situation played out. On top of all this, there was a looming threat from Hezbollah, a powerful group backed by Iran. In 2006, Israel had already engaged in a month-long war with them, highlighting their dangerous potential. They possessed a substantial arsenal of rockets and missiles, capable of striking anywhere in Israel. Meanwhile, Iran had issued a warning to Israel against launching a ground invasion in Gaza, as it could trigger a response from other quarters. The stakes were high, and the region stood on the precipice of further escalation. Amid this chaos, it's worth noting that around 900 Indian troops had been stationed at the Israel-Lebanon border, as part of the United Nations Peacekeeping Force (UNIFIL) since 1978. Furthermore, the events leading up to this crisis raised important questions about intelligence and awareness. It was revealed that multiple streams of intelligence had warned of the imminent threat. Despite this, Israel seemed caught off guard by the scale of the attacks, raising questions about whether they had known about the impending assault. This complex narrative doesn't just stop at the international stage. Israel's internal politics have been marked by instability and a series of elections. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu faced corruption charges and various scandals, further complicating the nation's leadership and potentially influencing the timing of the war. Allegations surfaced that Netanyahu had encouraged the Hamas group in the past, and there were concerns about his efforts to influence the judiciary. Widespread protests erupted across Israel, with citizens demanding accountability and transparency in their government. As the world grappled with these intricate dynamics, the Israel-Palestine conflict remained a flashpoint in international affairs, its consequences reverberating far beyond the borders of the troubled region. The peace process was on the brink of success when tragedy struck. A fanatic's bullet ended the life of Yitzhak Rabin, a leader who had tirelessly worked towards peace. On the other side of the political spectrum, Benjamin Netanyahu led a right-wing government with a hardline approach. He divided power between the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, sidelining the legitimate Palestinian Authority and its president. In a surprising move, Netanyahu even engaged in indirect negotiations with Hamas, a group labeled as a terrorist organization by many. These talks were mediated through Egypt, a development that raised eyebrows and prompted critical articles in publications like The Telegraph and The Times of Israel. Critics pointed to Netanyahu's policies as empowering Hamas, an outcome that wasn't in Israel's long-term interests. Reports emerged that Netanyahu had suggested the transfer of funds to Gaza to create a separation between the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank and Hamas in Gaza. This division, he argued, would ensure that a Palestinian state would never come to fruition. One politician from Netanyahu's party went as far as stating that Israel's policy was to treat the Palestinian Authority as a burden and Hamas as an asset. Shockingly, the Israeli government allowed large sums of money from Qatar to enter Gaza in 2018, benefiting Hamas. These revelations shook many, but they were not entirely hidden from the Israeli public. Israel still had a free and independent media, and the majority of citizens were aware of these controversial actions. As a result, Netanyahu's approval ratings plummeted as the war raged on. In a recent poll, only 29% of Israelis expressed support for him, marking an all-time low. The Israeli public took to the streets in protest, holding placards that read "Bibi, you have blood on your hands and go to jail, Bibi." Frustration spilled over, even reaching the point where an angry mob confronted an Israeli cabinet minister outside a hospital. The people of Israel were demanding change and accountability. This turmoil served as a stark reminder that blind faith in any government, organization, or group should always be avoided. The true measure of any action should be its impact on humanity and the well-being of common people, be they Israelis or Palestinians. The tumultuous events in Israel and the complex dynamics at play highlighted the importance of critical thinking and a focus on the values of compassion and justice for all.